they've said it's cool that you own all these properties, but what's the point? How do you actually get money from all the properties that you own? I want to explain a very important key factor, which is compound growth or compound equity over time once you've actually built up a property portfolio. I'm Eddie Dilleen. I've been a property investor for over 10 years now. I've invested in properties that's worth over $50 million now, over 80 plus investment properties. This is why I get featured on television all the time, Channel 7, Channel 9. I'm not sharing that with you to brag, I'm just sharing it with you to answer the question of how it actually performs and how it actually makes money. Like, what's the point of doing all this? The title of this is how I actually make over 2 million plus per year from investing in property. And one of those things is by equity and compound growth. One of the important things is by actually building a portfolio first to getting it to a large amount. And this is an unfortunate thing that most investors get stuck at only 1 or 2 properties. And if they're buying properties for, let's say, 300 or 400,000, then that's just not enough. I built my portfolio to 80 plus properties. You don't have to get to 80. You don't have to buy 60 or 20 or 30 or whatever, but 6 to 10 properties is a good amount to aim for. The bigger you build your portfolio, the bigger the compound effect. What I'm sharing with you today is the average capital growth rate. So throughout Australia right now, percentages of growth over the last 30 to 40 to 50 years for real estate in Australia, the average capital growth rate per year broken down of compound growth is about 6% per year, meaning properties on average in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, throughout Australia, over the last 30 to 40 years, they've gone up roughly 6% per year. I'm going to give you an example of even just say 6%. I'm going to just go off, let's say 4%. Because those of you out there might say, oh, well, that was the last 40 years and what if it slows down a little bit because of whatever reason. For all you skeptics out there and naysayers, I'll work off 4% for this example. You don't have to have a $50 million portfolio like I do. You can have a $5 million portfolio, you can have a $2 million, you can have a $1 million portfolio. But the bigger the numbers, the bigger the results, the bigger the payoff. In my portfolio now worth roughly 50 million. Yes, there's debt against that, etc. But I've bought properties outright as well in the past. But debt on a property portfolio, debt against real estate is a good thing. There's good debt and bad debt. And if you don't know that, there's other videos out there that you can watch to discover that. But real estate debt is tax deductible. My portfolio hypothetically is going to grow at 4% per year. Let's work out 4% of 50 million. If you don't have a calculator, the easiest way to do this is just work out what's 1% of 50 million. And 1% of 50 million, even off the top of my head, hopefully my numbers are right, but I'm sure they should be. 1% would be 500K. That's $500,000, which is 1% of $50 million. So you take 500K, times it by 4, and what does that equal? 2 million, right? So 4% roughly of $50 million is $2 million per year. So every single year, as an example, even if I just stop buying properties right now and I don't buy any more, I'm only 32, I plan to buy properties to 40, 50, 60, I plan to buy properties every day forever moving forward. I have an addiction, but it's a healthy addiction. It's a good thing. With these in mind, as an example, even after just in 12 months time from now, realistically, just with average capital growth, just average, below average actually, 4%, in 12 months, the portfolio will be worth 52 million plus. And then what you need to understand about capital growth, I'm not going to go into the exact percentages right now here today. The next 12 months after this, I wouldn't be just be making 4% 50 million. I'd be making 4% of 52 million. So then instead of just going up by 2 million, it would be going up by 2,080,000 as an example. 2,080,000. And basically, I'm not going to go into the exact particulars of the percentages, but it would be 4% of 52. The next year would be 54 as an example, plus a little bit of change. It'd be 4% of that, 4% of that, 4% of that. And then literally after 6 years, the portfolio would likely be worth around 70 million just for sitting there doing nothing. And over that time as well, bear in mind, some of these loans that I've got some are on interest only, some are on principal and interest, but many of them are just paying themselves down. And I'm not even paying them off. The tenants are paying them off for me. So it's a good position to be in. But that's the point of real estate investing and building a portfolio to reach your financial goals, not have to be stuck doing stuff that you don't want to do for the rest of your life. So you can invest in property and you can build an asset base that pays you in regardless of whether you go to work or not. Or if you want to go on holiday, you've still got the portfolio spitting out cash and giving you income to live off. You can see it over 6 years, every single year, even if I just have 50 million worth of property, it's going up 2 million the next year, 2 million the next year, plus, and then it's just continuing further and further. And then the percentages are going up because the dollar amount is going up. You don't have to get to 50 million, you can go to 5 million, 2 million, 3 million, whatever it is, but its strength is in numbers. You've got to get to a large portfolio. If you buy 4 properties that are worth 600,000 each, you got 2.4 million. the same thing. You might not be making 2 million a year in equity, but you'll be making 200,000 or 300,000 a year, as an example. Now, this is just one example of equity that's building in the background. There's the other example of what cash flow is this portfolio spitting out as well. What is that making? We'll do that in another video. What are the tax deductions as well as that? Another important key to understand about this is that with this equity, let's say as an example, there'd be 30 million worth of net equity in there. Let's say the loans as an example would be 20 million worth of loans, 30 million worth of equity, and then the 30 million worth of equity is going up and up, and even over that time, the loans are going down and they're going down and down. And then eventually, regardless of what happens, even the properties that I bought almost 10 years ago that have 20 years left on their mortgages, by the time I'm 52, realistically, all of them will be paid off at the very worst case scenario anyway. And by then, the rents would go up over time because the rents go up 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So the cash flow would keep going up, the loans would go down, and then there's the equity and the cash flow that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's how I make 2 million in equity every single year, regardless of whatever I do, whether I go on holidays, whether I sleep all day, whether I do anything happens. The portfolio that I built is growing 2 mil plus every single year. And then you can actually take out lines of credit against that. You can take out tax-free lines of credit, take the equity out, and you can do whatever you want with it. So there's different ways to obtain and achieve financial freedom. You can do it through equity, or you can also do it through cash flow. Equity or cash flow, two different things. This is the equity example. You too can build a portfolio, get to 1, 2, 3, or 5, or 6, or 10 properties. You might start off small ones like I did, buy 200K, 300K properties, but over time, you can get it to a stage where it's actually just, building equity. It's making you wealthy literally while you sleep. That saying, it's all quotes that are all over Google. Landlords get rich in their sleep. They literally do, because all you gotta do is hold the property, the 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 years, and then the market continues to do the heavy lifting for you, and the tenants pay off the property for you as well. Hope that video helps. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.